I call Alfred Naro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honour to speak on the Law and Order Estimates debate, and just following Jan Logie and the comments that she's made in regards to domestic violence. And I know that we've also too in the last term been involved in the inquiry in regards to the funding of sexual violence support services, and also too that just of recently there's been a hikoi that even Kelvin Davis has been part of that, leading that up to again address the issues around men against sexual violence. The whole issue is something I think cross-party, cross-government, that there is a concern. Previously to entering into Parliament, Mr. Chair, I was also too on the task force for family violence under the previous government, and so this has been an issue that has been there for such a long time. It's been a critical issue. It's an issue that has raised both the awareness, but also too along with that is a number of systemic areas of concern that we have to deal with, and I believe that, Mr. Chair, that's been part of what the government's focus is as well. So. You know, violent crime has been rising, we know that. The criminal justice system has needed accountability and focus on the victims, and that has been the key driver to the direction of the justice sector for this government, Mr. Speaker. It's been our belief that to be tough, have a tough stance on law and order means that New Zealand's recorded crime rate is falling and at its lowest level since 1978. And while we can applaud that over 30 years we now have one of the lowest crime rates, we do know that family violence, domestic violence and even sexual violence is still an area of concern, and we don't shy away from that. In fact, I want to again, in the previous speaker, applaud the comments of the Minister, the Honourable Amy Adams, who's taken a lead and a direction and the area for us to be able to champion that. And the way that she's actually being able to do that is that National's focus is getting the key justice sector agencies to work together. That's justice, police, and yes, even corrections in this regards. And so that's really important. But Mr. Speaker, one of the areas that I think also too that hasn't been addressed or touched on in the debates so far in regards to law and order is some of the focus and priority areas, especially those that impact both our Māori community and also vulnerable children. Several challenges remain, and we know the incidences and the impact of crime is unevenly spread. In fact, research shows that 6% of adults experience 54% of the crime. But an area of concern for this government is the over-representation of Māori in the criminal justice system, both as offenders and even as victims of crime. Māori are imprisoned 6 times the rate of non-Māori, and it's estimated that 22% of Māori males born before 1975 had a corrections-managed sentence before their 20th birthday, and 44% had such a sentence by the age of 35. Mr. Speaker, this is an area of concern for this government. It's an area that we're wanting to address as well, because the rate of offending for Māori youth has fallen by 53% from 2008-2014. However, there's still much work to be done, and we know that these are critical areas for us as well. So, Mr. Chair, one of the areas for this focus of this government is putting victims first. So we've introduced the $50 victims offender levy, and which has generated more than $16.6 million since its introduction. This has gone towards funding 15 new grants and services to provide key victim support services which were not previously available. The Ministry funds victim supports to provide nationwide 24/7 crisis response and ongoing support services, so that over 34,000 victims were supported in 2013 and in 2014. The Victim Centre manages funding for victims of serious crime through the $50 offender levy, and in 2013 and 2014, the Centre funded $5.9 million of grants and services provided to almost 5,500 victims of serious crime tailored to their specific needs. During the court process, the Ministry, 84 in-court victims advisors, contacted about 35,000 victims a year and 24,000 using the service since 2013 and 2014 as well. There's also been an increase in funding for restorative justice programs, which are available in the courts as an option of pre-sentencing and to provide an alternative way of responding to crime and addressing harm to victims. The increase in the penalty for breaching protection orders for 2 to 3 years imprisonment has also made a difference as well. National passed the Victims of Crime Reform Bill to improve the rights and services for all victims, and we passed the Harmful Digital Communications Bill to protect victims from cyberbullying as well. What we're also doing is strengthening the sentencing and parole and bail. We've passed the bail amendment bill to tighten up on bail, introduce electronically and monitored bail.
Calling Adrian Ruffy.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'd like to speak to vote correct.